Chapter 20, Individual Rights. This will go fairly quickly. I assume that many of you have heard of these things before, especially if you've watched any sort of crime TV shows or something like that. So we're probably going to move through this very quickly because it's pretty simple concepts in the end. Due process. The 5th and 14th Amendments guarantee you the right to a fair trial before they can remove your life, liberty, or property. And then the 14th Amendment demands this of your state and local governments, because in the past, state and local governments may not give you as many rights as the national government was supposed to. So in this country, you need something, you have to be charged with something first. Police need warrants, they need to do the right things, they need probable cause to search you. You are given a certain process that you must have. They cannot just say, hey, you're a bad guy, I'm putting you in jail. It doesn't work like that. If the government does that, you can easily get out of it. Okay, your right to privacy. This one is more controversial, and actually I'm about to deconstruct why it's actually a really terrible thing, but I thought it would be good for you guys to know what it is. So far, the 14th Amendment has been interpreted to mean the government can't meddle with your personal life unless you're committing a crime. So it was taken to mean that it was really expanded to the idea of, oh, it can be abortion, it can be contraception, where the government can't force you to do stuff. Well, as Catholics, we would believe your right to a life is more important than someone's right to choose an abortion. However, you will see the whole right of privacy is implied by the 14th Amendment. It's not in the 14th Amendment. It's not even named in the Constitution itself. So the right to privacy is fine, but what does that even mean? If you have a right to privacy, does that mean you can do something horrible? No. It doesn't mean you should be able to do something horrible. Some people, it's more strict of like, hey, you can't catch me doing it, I shouldn't get in trouble. Well, that's not a great idea. If you look at the map, this is what we do in this country. These are the weeks of gestation before it is banned as an abortion. In most states, it is 20 weeks or 24 weeks. Still fairly early, but some babies are born so premature that you're getting closer to 4 or 5 months out of the womb. Most of these states, though, cannot ban it before then because it's in the first third of the pregnancy. Roe v. Wade made it that you can't ban it in the first third. You can possibly do stuff in the second third, and then you probably should ban it in the last third. However, so like viability, all these states with viability, you're not supposed to kill a baby once it can be successfully livable. That's not a good idea. You get to some states that are gray, there is no limit. So you can kill a baby basically until it's born. I think New York and Virginia both. Okay, so Virginia's at 25 plus weeks. But I'm pretty sure New York also increased theirs to basically when the child's born. Okay, so if you look at Roe v. Wade in the future, it could easily be overturned by a future court decision that believes in the right to live over the right to privacy. The right to privacy is in some ways made up. It's just an idea that, oh, we should have some privacy, right? But it's not actually in the Constitution, where your right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are very central to the American way of life, government. Okay, 13th Amendment. Discrimination is not allowed in this country. Does it happen? Absolutely. It should not happen. So the 13th Amendment applied this to race, and the 14th Amendment today is the broader category for everything else. So it's been used for equal rights, usually for homosexual groups. So that's why you're allowed to have gay marriage, because it's considered to be discrimination that, hey, I want to get married, it shouldn't matter who I'm marrying, as long as they're above 18. And then trans people for their bathrooms or whatever they want to do. Some states have taken it to mean that as well. Okay, your Second Amendment rights. You have the right to firearms and other weapons in this country for self-defense, sport, shooting an animal because you want its meat or it's just fun, whatever you got to do. I know some of you hunt for fun on your own free time. Usually the government draws the lines at weapons of war. So the U.S. government, although you have a right to bear arms, no tanks. Automatic machine guns are almost entirely banned in every single place in this country. However, many people have the ability to make something an automatic machine gun if they wanted. You cannot own a rocket launcher. That's been illegal. You cannot own an RPG. You can't blow stuff up like that. Some states allow ownership of older banned weapons or even currently banned weapons. So you will have some experts that are, for a TV show, I have a permit to own an RPG, so I can show people how it works. Oh, cool. You have antique collectors. Some of them might have an old machine gun from World War I, and it's not considered very good today, but in the right situation, it could cause a lot of damage. But usually, they're just antique collectors, and a lot of times you have to disarm the weapon in one way or another. But I do know of one person, my friend who's a cop, he actually has a friend who owns flintlock pistols, which are pistols from like Revolutionary War where you put gunpowder in it and then you explode it. That's acceptable apparently. However, those weapons made out of wood, gunpowder, like those things will blow up in your hand. It's not a good idea. And then depending on the state, laws can be more strict or less strict. You'll get liberal states that will restrict things, so they might restrict semi-automatic rifles, they might restrict different weapons of any sort. Conservative states are usually easier. You go to like Texas and you can carry your gun to a lot of places you probably wouldn't imagine. Restaurants, movie theaters, church services, if that church is okay with it. It's kind of interesting. If you go to like a Scheels, even in Nebraska, Lincoln or Omaha, you might find like katanas, swords, a whole bunch of weapons in a Scheels or other business. Okay, the Third Amendment. It's very basic. It's almost completely useless today because the government doesn't even try to do this to us. Okay, the government cannot force you to house or feed American troops. They can't. So if American troops come to your door with a gun and they say, we are allowed to sleep here just because, they can't. We put that in there because that's what the British used to do to the Americans. However, you're always free to feed the troops. You're always allowed to house the troops. If this was like New Orleans in 2005 with the flooding, or today in like New York for Corona, if you want to house a soldier, you're perfectly allowed to. If you want to be nice and give soldiers food because they're busy, I remember we had some National Guard people for our flooding the year before. There are people that might have given them food because they saw they're in the hot sun all day or something like that. It's never been a part of a major court case, not even really in the Supreme Court even. Okay, the Fourth Amendment and probable cause. Police can search or interrogate you if they have what is called probable cause. They can't search you if they don't, though. So if they have no reason to suspect you of a crime, they're not allowed to come into your house. Play nice with the cops, but if they don't have a reason to come into your house, you don't have to let them in your house. Sometimes you'll find small town cops. I'm not even talking about David City small town. I'm talking about like smaller than David City. But they might be very aggressive cops, or they might know this person definitely does meth or something. Doesn't mean they can just search their house. Okay. If something, however, is in plain view, they do not need a warrant. They can just go and take it. And go and arrest you. If you have marijuana, do I put that as thing? Yeah. If you have marijuana in the driver's seat and they see it, they can arrest you. You obviously have marijuana. If the cops, however, saw you smoking pot through a window in your own house, they have probable cause to arrest you. They can actually not so much break down your door, but they can arrest you if they had a way to. Even if you're in your own home. There was a famous case of cocaine dealers who had, for whatever reason, left their front door open, and the cop was patrolling the neighborhood, saw them making cocaine in the living room, and then he went into the house and arrested them because he saw them doing something illegal. This is something that will also happen in college towns. If something is not in plain sight, it may be hard for cops to arrest you fairly. Doesn't mean they won't try to, but it's hard for them to do that. So for an example that I know of, sometimes college drinking parties are not busted because there's no Plainview drinking. If there is a party and there is no noise complaint and you just see, oh, maybe a kid, there might be a party, this place always has parties. Well, if all the shutters are put down and there's been no call, they can just enter your house just because they assume that it's a Friday night you're partying. However, if there's been a noise complaint, they might be able to knock on your door. You have to answer them at the door for the noise complaint. And if they see you drinking and you're underage, well then obviously you get busted. Okay, habeas corpus. In this country, you must have a charge to be kept by the police. If you are in the police station and you ask the cop, what am I here for? And they can't tell you anything, it probably means they aren't respecting habeas corpus, which is a main thing in American law. They have to know what they're keeping you there for. Some police departments will let you go if they feel they can't keep their arrest in court. If someone arrested you for something and then their boss said, I don't think we can get this guy for court, this is going to be a big waste of our time, they sometimes let people go. Not common, but can happen. Okay, double jeopardy, also very important. In America, you can never be tried for the same crime twice. If you finish your trial in any way, guilty, not guilty, or acquittal, it's over. Never again. So many people still to this day believe that OJ might have killed his wife, his ex-wife, and her boyfriend. However, he was found not guilty, and for the rest of human history, as far as the U.S. government is concerned, he was not guilty of the crime. He could almost even admit to it later on, and it'd be rather difficult to restart something. Okay. If a person is acquitted, and that means the government attorney breaks the rules during the trial. So if they broke into your house and they didn't have a right to, or they found a piece of evidence and they found a piece of evidence with your blood, and then they pushed them together so your blood was on a thing, like a piece of cloth or whatever, but then they proved that it was messed up in the trial, that person can't be tried again, even if that person probably did it. So there has been things where the DNA evidence, which was the only thing you had, which doesn't even work half the time, but if that was the only thing you had saying that guy was at the crime scene, well, if you tampered with that evidence, you get away with it. Not great, but it's also a way that the government can't mess you over on purpose and get away with it and keep putting you to trial and ruining your life. Okay, other rights. You have a right to trial by jury of your local community members. You can't bring people from other places. People who are from the same area get to tell you whether you are innocent or not. Okay, you have a right to or it's guilty or not guilty. So it doesn't mean you're technically innocent. You have a right to an adequate defense. If you want to get a lawyer that will do their best to help you, you're allowed to get a free one. Doesn't mean they're going to do a great job, but they're going to do their best to help you. Some lawyers will actually tell you, let's take a deal of 1 year because it's the best thing for you. Or you can just fight the case the whole way. When you're arrested, you're supposed to be told your rights. Those are called Miranda rights. And then you remember you always have the right to say absolutely nothing. I think in many cases you have to tell them your name, possibly, or where you're from, but you don't have to tell them, where were you? Why were you running? Why do you have this on you? Why is this? Why is that? What's that? Like, you don't technically have to say anything, because what you could be saying would get you arrested or get you thrown in jail. Okay, bail. Many people are allowed to leave jail until their trial. This is called bail. So if you're not deemed a risk or someone who's untrustworthy, you can pay the bail and then you can go home to your trial until you have your trial. It could be anything from $100 to, I've seen bails for rich people when the judge actually does a good job, or is saying, this guy's worth $1 billion, so his bail is set at $100 million. Something insane. So it would actually hurt them if they were someone who posted bail and then tried to flee to some random island somewhere. Okay, a judge sets your bail for whatever they deem necessary. some judges have to follow guidelines of, okay, it's a marijuana possession charge, it's $1,000 bail, as long as there's no priors of running away. Some judges can just tell you whatever they want. There have been people that have said they have waived their right to a jury trial and they just want the judge to do it. We've had judges in some places, they will fine a person $1 because they know that they're poor and they didn't mean to steal something, they're just desperate, something like that. Bail can be returned to you if you show up to court on time. However, if you don't show up to court on time, you're definitely not getting that money back. Okay, some people actually hate the idea of cash bail because people who are already poor might also be the people that are more likely to get arrested. So you'll have a really bad system of these people are poor, then they get arrested, then they lose their job, and even if they win their court case, they're poor and they don't have a job. So then they're more likely to do something illegal, which puts them back in jail. Whereas rich people can always just pay off and go back to their nice homes and all that stuff.